Thank you. Welcome to the Gallery on the Bay in Hamilton, Ontario, and the virtual book launch put on for the current releases by Bridgeross Communications. We thought we would do a virtual launch to go along with the actual launch on February the 26th for those of you who aren't in the Toronto and Hamilton area. And tonight we're featuring 3 new books. The first is Slide in All Direction. Let me just show you the cover, by David Laing Dawson. And the book is his most current mystery, dealing with Hamilton. Dawson has been published, his books have been translated into 7 languages, and Publishers Weekly has described him as a sure-handed competitor of Robin Cook. The second book that we're featuring tonight is slightly different, The Dysfunctional Father's Guide to Pregnancies, Birth, and Babies, by a couple of dysfunctional fathers in Seattle who go under the name of XY. And of this book, Michael Dresser, the syndicated radio host of Dresser After Dark, said it is the most important book on the shelves today for fathers. The third book is the recently released Schizophrenia, Medicine's Mystery, Society's Shame, and that's one that I wrote, and since I didn't introduce myself, it's Marvin Ross. And this book is recommended by the World Fellowship for Schizophrenia and Allied Disorders. So first let me introduce David Laing Dawson to read a section of Slide in All Direction, but first I should point out that in a recent review of this book, the Hamilton Spectator described it as a work of fiction that's as close to reality as it gets. So with that, let me introduce David Laing Dawson.
So this is the first chapter of Slide in All Direction. The wheels of heaven stop. Albert Johannes Wesnicki, whose father had named him right then and there when his mother and aunts were dithering, because he wanted either an Einstein or a Brahms, take your pick, and how he'd just been reading that the music part of the brain was very close to the mathematics part, and a long way away from the hockey part. Wasn't thinking much about mathematics or music when he staggered out of the crack house at the corner of Barton and Bay on a fine July afternoon in his 19th year, and lay himself down in the middle of Bay Street North to await the approach of the 18-wheeler loaded with steel rods that often came fast around the corner this time of day. Kyle, his good buddy in all things sinful, hesitated but a moment before continuing his loose-limbed journey up Bay Street, muttering over his shoulder, "You stupid bastard, get yourself run over, who gives a shit?" His mother had probably rolled her eyes and shrugged that first day, the way she rolled her eyes and shrugged every time his father had told the naming story at the dinner table throughout Albert's childhood, told right after he had announced, a few beer under his belt, "I can talk to the goddamn kid any way I want. I'm the one gave him his name, goddammit." It wasn't much of a crack house, not by world standards anyway, just a run-down rat-hole triplex, shifting and sliding in its slow journey down the hill into the lake. On the Barton Street side, one window was tilted a good 15 degrees, and the edge of the roof formed a rather pleasant, shallow swoosh instead of the perfect horizontal the original builder had imagined. Kitty corner stood the bait shop, carved out of a small defunct variety store, carrying a few rods and reels, a display case of lures, and a few buckets of worms, where the money changed hands before customers crossed over to the crack house. This was not, thought Albert, where he should be on the day after his father's funeral.
Being featured tonight is The Dysfunctional Father's Guide to Pregnancy, Birth, and Babies. As I said, it's by XY, and it's brilliantly illustrated by David Shaw, whom I've worked with for many, many years. And is a brilliant illustrator, as you can see from the cover. XY couldn't be here tonight, and besides, they're anonymous, so they would have had to have done this reading with a hood over their head. However, let me just read to you a couple of the reviews that the book has been getting on Amazon. One woman, surprisingly, women actually find this book funny, although it has been accused of being politically incorrect, which is, of course, what makes it funny. This one reviewer said, "This book is so hilarious it should come with a warning, because you may very well crack your ribs from laughing so hard while reading it. Beyond and beneath the humor, however, lurk incredibly astute insights about becoming a father. This is a perfect, funny, and functional gift for the men in our lives." And then, and this is from a new father, someone with an 8-year-old or an 8-week-old, when he wrote this, said, "This book is a breath of fresh air. It is funny, informative, and enjoyable to read. The wonderful thing about it is that I realize that I am not alone. There are other fathers like me who are real people and not living up to the perfection portrayed so often." So I'm not going to read sections because, quite frankly, I don't know what to read, but I think you get the idea that this is an incredibly funny book, and it's my pleasure to be able to publish it. So rush out and get it, please, and thank you for your time. And now for something completely different, and that's Schizophrenia, Medicine's Mystery, Society's Shame. First of all, let me just read you a couple of the very positive reviews that have appeared about the book. The first is from Schizophrenia Digest magazine, which described the book as a powerful resource for anyone looking for answers and insight into the world of mental illness. And then a review on Amazon that said, "Too much received opinion on this subject has been wrong, and Ross correctly dedicates considerable space to expunging error." Now, I'm not going to depress people by reading what's in the book, so let me just read the purpose of the book, and that was twofold. First, it was hoped that a candid discussion of the disease, the suffering that is inflicted on those with the disease by a mostly uncaring society, and an explanation of what schizophrenia is and how the treatment of its victims can be improved will advance our appreciation of the problem. Second, it was hoped that this book would provide information and comfort to the families of the victims and hopefully empower them in their struggle. And then secondarily, it is also hoped that the book can be used for families to give to friends and other family members in order to help those people understand and to help dispel the myths about serious mental illness that they might have. So on that note, I wanted to thank you all for watching the virtual launch. Sorry you couldn't be here in person because we're having a lot of very good nibblies and free wine and free beer. But as my payment to you for taking the time to watch this, I will personally have a drink of wine for each and every one of you. So again, thank you very much, and if you want to learn more about the books published by Bridgeross Communication, our website is www.bridgeross.com. Thank you for coming.